Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Creatives Conversation. I'm Amber with Helps Too. I'm the brand manager here, and I am here with a very special guest. This is my boyfriend. This is Andrew Trac. I have him with me today because Andy is an incredible he's just an incredibly organized person. He owns his own business, Rebel Nature Consulting, and he's also a podcast host himself over at the Cold Brew Conversations. And so I wanted to bring him on to talk to you guys about time management. And I think this is a really big topic for creatives because I'll put myself in the same category and say we can really struggle with this. We can really, feel like we have all the time in the world and just create, and time is a little more fluid for us than others. But I just feel like, having a better sense of time management in my own life, from even things that Andy has taught me, has really helped me to be more disciplined in my craft and to grow. And so, I'm glad that you are joining us
happy
today.
To be here.
Yeah. So I want to jump right in and just ask you right away, why is time management important for creatives?
Time management is important for creatives and really all people because we are all given the same 24 hours in a day. We can look around our community and our environment and see what people do with that 24 hours. And you're going to have a whole variety, hopefully have a whole variety of different observations. You'll see, if you just look around your neighborhood, for example, you'll see moms and dads who go to work really early in the morning. You'll see stay-at-home parents. You'll see just kids around the neighborhood, hopefully, these days.
Yeah.
You'll see different people who like doing lawn care. Like you'll see a lot of different people, and you can see that time management is everywhere, not just in the creative world.
True.
And so by tackling time management and why it's important, it's just about making a plan for your day about what you want to achieve and maybe what you don't want to achieve, maybe you want to wait on. There's time management really is just the process. It's just a hat of putting on here's how I'm going to arrange the day to get the most out of it.
Okay. So would you say what is your kind of format, or what template do you follow when you're setting up your day?
I'm a pretty crazy person when it comes to time management.
That's true. Well, your shirt says you're not crazy though.
Well, I'm just not you.
Oh, I think you're crazy actually.
I like to delve into detail. I'm a detailed kind of person when it comes to time management. Also because I'm a very experimental person. I like to see what kind of things I could get within 24 hours. So I tackle it kind of like a business in the sense that I have business operating hours where I know I have things I want to get done before the end of the day, end of the workday, no matter what day of the week it is.
Okay.
So for me, it's I don't include sleep in the sense that everybody has to sleep.
True. In terms of things you have to get done.
But in terms of things I have to get done, like saying a time you wake up, it's like when you open your business up. It's I wake up at 6, and I go until I would say maybe 8 o'clock, meaning that from 6 to 8, that's about 14 hours to really get.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah, 14 hours to get work, to get recreation in, to get relationships in, to get building community and getting a physical workout in. But so I just tackle it with a few parameters, that things I know that have to happen. Having a morning routine, having an evening routine. Those are two things I set out early on, objectives for each of one of those, and then depending on where I'm going to be on the day, it's I just kind of know what to expect within the window of time. But just starting with how I do is morning, mid-morning, early afternoon, late afternoon, early evening and then evening. So
Yeah.
I kind of like made 5
Well,
different
and I
windows.
know a little bit of your schedule, as I should. And I know that you're at work for 8 hours out of the day. And I think that, you know, sometimes a lot, like people, that's kind of not really the norm anymore. It is because a lot of jobs still keep that frame. But like, I feel like a lot of creatives especially don't have that like 8 hours of like sitting at a desk or showing up to a specific place to work, you know, especially with COVID and work from home and just remote jobs opening and just a lot of things like people working for themselves, entrepreneurs especially, like they don't have to stick to like, you know, I work from like 9 to 5 and that's my day every single day. And so like that's a totally different way to structure and build your time versus, you know, someone who shows up to a job for 8 hours a day and then goes home. So like, how would you say is like, do you have a template that kind of you've like that could work for no matter what someone's schedule is? Or like, what's your advice to people who don't really have a 9 to 5 for structuring their day and to get the most out of it? Because I'm one of those people, like I do work 40 hours a week, but I don't have to show up and be on the clock at like 8 o'clock, you know? So, you know, it can be hard. It's definitely like a wrestle of like, how do I maintain structure, but at the same time maintain a little bit of like fluidity? So, you know, if I want to go take a yoga class in the middle of the day and then work later that day, I can still do it. But at the same time, I need structure.
Yeah, so you talked a lot about different audiences about what their work looks like. So we talk about creatives, entrepreneurs, people who have a regular 9 to 5. And so I would group the entrepreneurs and creatives kind of in the same sphere.
Yeah, it's fairly
and
accurate.
People who have a 9 to 5, kind of a W-2 type of job, like they have a little more structure that's like more of an obligation on paper.
Right.
So we can talk about, for the entrepreneur, kind of how it works, because even though they're like in the same circle, they're very different in good ways and bad ways, because a really good entrepreneur, if you're really going to be a true entrepreneur and you're really working to build your enterprise and your vision and your dreams, like you're oftentimes going to be clocking in like 70 hours a week.
That's true.
To just get things going.
Yeah.
And when you're in that role, and we're talking about entrepreneur, like how to do time management, delegation is going to be a big thing. How to delegate task so you can really focus on what's really important. Because as a entrepreneur or founder, you're going to have to wear many different hats. So the key for an entrepreneur in the creative space is like find a way to delegate. Find a way to batch things. And this batching, for example, is going to work for creatives, entrepreneurs, people who work 9 to 5. So what does batch processing mean? So for example, I'll use a lot of different metaphors here and a lot of different analogies. If you have to do laundry every week, and socks probably have to be cleaned. Socks need to be cleaned. You don't want to wear clean socks. Well, it makes more sense to batch process socks. So that means like you don't just wash one pair of socks at a time.
Right.
You wait for them to accumulate and then you do them all at once. So because they'd be inefficient to wash a single pair of socks, it would be inefficient to turn on your washer just for a single pair. So batch processing, how does that look in the real world as well? Like,
well, I can speak for us at Helps too. Like we batch shoot our podcast. So we might shoot more than one episode per day. And then we have all these podcasts accumulated in advance so that, you know, we're shooting today and it's July, but this may not come out until September, you know, because we batch shoot. But I don't tell us how that applies to like other things.
So email, for example, email is a great distraction, but it's also a sometimes necessary communication tool. People can either get bogged down by it. Some people just choose to ignore it and it just grows out of control.
I've
batch
seen
processing helps
many people with inboxes, you know, the little on their iPhone, it has the little number next to it. Yeah. And it's like thousands. I'm like, I just can't
honestly
fix
before when I was wrapping up my junior year of high school, my inbox probably had like 14,000 emails in it. Wow. And just like I decided one day, I don't know why, it was just like, I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm sick of seeing this many emails that go unnoticed or untouched or unread, and I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't know how to make distinction, which is a big aspect of time management, if you don't know how to make distinctions about really large things, then you're not really you're not gonna get the most out of it.
Okay.
So anyway, so email, for example, like setting yourself a limit of 1 hour in the morning to check emails, and then 1 hour in the afternoon to check emails.
Okay.
If you're, unless like it's something urgent, they can call you. Emails kind of have a understanding that emails are not as urgent as phone calls.
That's true. Yeah.
Emails are not as urgent as somebody walking to your desk or walking up to wherever you are. So remember that. Don't treat them as number one priority. Emails are just a tool for communication in written form. If they really need something, they'll find a way.
True.
They will find a way to let you know if it's an emergency. So batch process your emails 1 hour in the afternoon, 1 hour in the morning. What else? Like asking like what else is good for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, just for like structuring your day if you don't already have like a set 9 to 5 that already creates a structure for you.
Yeah. If you're starting from scratch, find out necessities first. Like find out the necessary things you have to do in the day. That you're probably gonna need to eat food. You're probably gonna eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You know, another one great example of batch processing, which everybody will understand, is meal prepping.
Yeah.
So rather than, and we'll talk about just-in-time management as well later on, but this is like a reversal of that. So batch processing is the complementary is just-in-time, JIT. Batch processing is like, meal prep all your meals on 1 day of the week or 2 days of the week, and then you'll be ready to go
for the rest of the week.
Yeah, you know what you're gonna have, so you don't have to spend cognitive power on figuring out what you want to eat. Just pack it with you, grab it with you, like, and just heat up and eat it.
Yeah.
Because you know, like, that's a necessary function of the day.
Right.
Start with the necessities first. Figure out what really has to be done. Otherwise, because things tend to fall apart no matter what. But
well, that's encouraging.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate fact of life sometimes.
Yeah.
But and if you really don't know what's gonna happen in a day, like, because every day is somewhat different. Like, you know, people tend to think weekends are very different than weekdays. I think they're all every day is the same day. Just because my philosophy, the way I view time, and how I've experimented with different time management styles. But there's no. Today's not different from tomorrow, if you have like the right lens on, or the lens that works for you at that time. But anyway, so there might be weekend activities that you always want to do versus weekday activities. Like, go to work is always a good one. Like, going to work, you know you have to be there.
Yeah, that's true.
Find out the necessities.
Yeah.
First.
Okay. And then what?
Start penciling in things that you like to do.
Okay.
Things that you like to do that fulfill you and give you a creative flair. Yeah. Even though you're still a creative person, like, you might be a very creative person already as it is, there are still more ways for you to stretch your creativity.
Right.
And so, spend time doing just things that you like.
Right. And I want to talk about that because a lot of people don't work a job in their creative passion. Like, they might love to make jewelry, but that's not their profession. You know, they actually show up to a job every day. And so, like, how would you say, in terms of discipline and time management, is the best way if you have a creative passion that you love doing on the side, which is even the case for you with your podcast, and your business, because that's not even your, full-time job. What would you say to keep yourself accountable, to continue to grow in your craft and discipline when it's actually not required of you?
Yeah, especially when it's not required of me. Like, I don't technically have to have a podcast. I've identified it as a creative itch. So find what scratches your itch, or not find what scratches it, but what is your itch? That's really the first question. Is like, what do you want to do outside of work?
Right. And I think for a lot of creatives, they already know what that is.
Yeah.
That's I think a lot of creatives have that idea already. Like, I really want to pursue more of, writing or whatever it is. But then they don't necessarily know how to keep up with that and how to maintain that when it's not required of them, when it's not, their time is not being compensated for that. And there's a lot of other demands on their time.
So as a creative, you can look at athletes, for example, and I read a lot. I listen to a lot of interviews from my favorite writers and athletes. Roger Federer had a really good example of what it meant to be a tennis professional, and it changed my mindset when I was in high school playing tennis because he is just a professional about it, meaning that he has to be dependable and constant in the sense that, no matter what time of the day it is, as a tennis professional, he has to be able to wake up and serve a point. Whether it's 8 a.m., 2 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m., or 2 in the morning. He's like, I know that I have to, if I'm gonna stake my life on being a tennis professional, then I have to be able to do this at any time of the day.
Right.
So, sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
You're fine. Well, I think, because I'm thinking of people who are not professionals. I'm thinking of, side passion, side hobby.
Sure.
And so I know personally, I did a dream workshop with one of my favorite artists, Zach Winters. He did, the series during COVID where he would invite people to come and talk about their dreams, their goals, their visions, and, turn that into actionable steps to actually get them to where they want to go. And during my one-on-one session with him, I brought up one goal that I had, which is to be proficient in Photoshop because, I use Photoshop some for my job and I can kind of know my way around it, but I'm not proficient and I'm not to a level where I can create something that's what's in my head, I can actually transfer it out onto Photoshop. And so when I was talking to him about that, he told me one actionable step as this is not something I'm doing for work. It's not something that I'm, doing because there's any pressure on me. It's just because I want to learn it. But he told me in order to get better at that, I should practice maybe using a tutorial on YouTube or something for 1 hour a week and make that a goal. And after 40 weeks, I've put in 40 hours of learning Photoshop, and it hasn't even cost me that much on a weekly level. 1 hour a week, I can find that in my schedule. But if I were to look at it and take it as oh my gosh, I have to do this every single day, and I need to be able to do this in 2 weeks, I need to be able to do everything. That's not necessarily realistic and that's not helpful. But just having a goal that is small and very feasible and something that even excites me because if I have to learn the boring parts of Photoshop, that might take up some of my time. But the reality is I am teaching myself at this point, so I can go
there's a lot of techniques
find
I can talk
tutorials.
I like that you brought up things that don't excite you, but you still do them anyway. And I have some techniques that can really help you move over that hump, and because you'll encounter it no matter what during the learning process.
Right.
You're gonna encounter ideas and tasks and just objectives that you don't find entertaining as much as the other stuff, but it's still required.
Still part of the process. Yeah.
I have some things that can help with that. Let's take a step back though and talk about the mindset of time management and when it comes to creatives, because you and I have talked about a lot off screen, but sometimes people who are very open to new ideas and very exploratory and very creative, they see a time schedule as a dictator or a tyrant, meaning that they have to submit every minute of their day to this time schedule. But that's not really the case. It's not really a parent-child relationship with time management as much as it is a student-teacher relationship. Or a business partnership relationship, but really it's going to be your ally. Time management is an ally in your toolbox that once you really understand and have a dialogue and cooperate with it, it will really fuel what you want to get done in terms of creation. So time management is an ally, not a dictator. And how you there are ways to be there are ways that time management is really negative and destructive to you, and there's a way that it can be really good. So you don't want, and here's the part that people really fear about time management. No matter wherever I go and who I've talked to about time management, they have pretty much the same fears that I am going to lose spontaneity if I follow this plan. They always think that it's a sacrifice of spontaneity.
That's a big thing for creatives too, because creatives are usually, not always, but usually very spontaneous people. You know, we go with the flow. Like when I feel like, when I'm inspired, you know, those types of words, then we do stuff. Then we take action.
Yeah. It's easy to feel that way if you are an island of a person. You know, if you don't have to be accountable for anybody, that is an easy attitude to take. But then you realize it doesn't tell you how to operate either, which is kind of like what we're talking about. It's like, I like to use this example a lot, which I've learned from one of my mentors, that imagine you and I were in a helicopter, and we're like flying over across the ocean, and I drop you off somewhere in the ocean, just into the water, and I say, all right, you can go any direction you want, because that's basically 24 hours a day. You have 24 hours a day, you can do whatever you want with it. If you're in the middle of the ocean, go wherever you want. The ocean doesn't really tell you what to do or how to go about it, which is the problem, right? But if I drop you down in the ocean and then I give you a map and I say, here's an island in this direction, then you can start channeling your energy. Like, okay, well, I could swim in any direction I want, but I'm going to run out of energy. And so before my energy runs out, I might try to start swimming in this direction of the island. So the time management in this example is like, time management is like the island for you. So we need to all craft an island that we can really use as a beacon and view it as a way to navigate yourself. Because otherwise you're just going to drown.
Yeah.
You're going to drown. And if you don't, like, just because 24 hours today might not seem like a big deal if you waste it, because you might, like, but you have the same 24 hours a day tomorrow, and the same 24 days after that, 24 hours again and again and again and again. It might be very.
And it feels like just days are going by.
It feels like it's go by. You haven't done anything,
and months.
And you lose direction.
Yeah.
So time management is an ally in the sense that it can give you a sense of direction and give you guidance. And if you're lucky, by listening to this podcast, you can really think about how to structure that first. You can really talk about what you want from your time and negotiate it with your schedule. Meaning that if you really want spontaneity, it's like, don't think of it as losing out spontaneity. It's like schedule spontaneity, schedule for dead time.
Schedule spontaneity.
You can schedule spontaneity. You really can.
Like a paradox.
It does. That's the thing. It's the paradox, but it is. There are a lot of contradictory things in life, and this is one of those that's really. Everyone thinks it's like counterintuitive, but it actually, it is. Once you start practicing it and identifying, you can really unlock a lot of potential within yourself.
Yeah.
So we should start there. It's like, don't look at time management as a tyrant, as only a tyrant. You have to think about it as a good ally as well.
Yeah.
So then, scheduling meditation time to journal, time to create, that has no other objective than to just enjoy.
Yeah.
As a creative, if you're gonna be a musician, like, you probably need to be making songs to monetize, but you can also write songs that have no other purpose other than enjoyment. Yeah.
Like we've talked about on the podcast before, the concept, one for me, one for them. You make one piece of art, whatever it is you do, just for you because you enjoy it, and you don't necessarily have to share it with the world or try to make money off of it. But then you make one for them, and you share that with the world, and that's your business, you know. But your whole identity and your whole life as an artist doesn't have to be your business. It can also be enjoying what you do and doing it just for you and never sharing.
And once you start building up a like a database of all a journal or log of all this time management, you can start. It's fun. I think you can look back and identify trends that you do.
Yeah.
So then you can start picking out, like, what am I like during this season of the year versus this season? Like, what am I like in the winter versus the spring? What am I like during the summer versus the winter?
Yeah.
You can really start figuring out, like.
I think those things really do vary, especially like if you live in a place where there's very different seasons, like like in the winter, you can't go out as much per se. And so therefore maybe you're creating a lot more, and maybe you're sitting inside and reflecting and thinking a lot more, and that affects your art, It's really interesting. I've never thought about the seasons affecting.
And if you're a student in high school or college or post-grad, or trade school, whatever, it's like, Well, prior to the year, you're going to have to be in class.
That's true. In the summer, you'll have more time.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, depending on where you are in life, your time management will change as it's needed. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about it being a concrete ruler who can never change, because you are the one who gets to have a conversation with your time management. Sometimes, there are, like I said, there are necessities in your life that you really need. Like
you don't get to decide, I don't feel like showing up to work today and not show up, or I don't feel like being a parent today and not parenting your kid.
So different seasons of your life will give you a different layout every time.
Right.
It's just like when, before you and I met, I didn't have to sacrifice much of my time for relationship. But, once I found out that I wanted to be in a committed relationship, the dialogue and negotiation had to not only include myself, but it had to include you too. And I wanted you to be there. Right. It's just like figuring out what are the things I really want versus what I thought I wanted. Allow yourself room to grow and change, because that's what's going to happen no matter what. Like, time's going to change you. Time's going to mature you. And just, by being proactive about time management, hopefully you might get lucky and you may have a say in it. You may get to have a vote,
Yeah.
Because sometimes
I feel like that's especially the case for parents, Yep. Maybe you get a say in it, but, if your newborn's crying in the middle of the night, you don't get to say, I'm going to sleep 8 hours tonight. You don't. Like, you really don't.
Right.
And there's, a lot of other situations too, but definitely like parents, like that's a big one.
Yeah. So, no matter what age you are, like there's just different factors, and it's just interesting. I love doing time experiments. Like, what could I do in 24 hours? If I did the opposite, or if I did the opposite for 24 hours or 48 hours. Like, what if I did the opposite?
The opposite of what your normal routine?
Of what my normal routine is, and what's it like to do it that way? So, I really used to love working out in the morning, and I would go work out like 5 in the morning, 5 to like 6:30.
Right.
And I did that for a long time in my life. Probably for the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Now I don't do that as much because I'm finding a better plan elsewhere. Like, just the way my days have gone, like I work out in the evening now.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Right.
Because I've identified, first of all, I want to go work out. I like to work out. So I just only put things in my time schedule that I like to do.
Yeah.
And figuring out, like, just keeping track of these patterns is just really going to increase your self-awareness and self-perception about what energizes you, what drains you.
Right.
And figuring out how you want to go about things.
Right. So I just want to, before we wrap things up, I want to talk about like discipline and like accountability, because you can have this schedule, like you can create your calendar and lay it all out and look at it and it's pretty, but if you don't follow it, like there's no point. You're not really managing your time. You've just created a schedule that's useless.
Yeah.
And so like how would you suggest to people who are not naturally super disciplined, that naturally don't, wake up when their alarm goes off and like show up to the thing right when they said they would get there? Like, how would you suggest building that discipline?
Introduce stakes into it.
Like the food?
Yeah, steak is really good like that. But introducing stakes, introducing penalties for not doing something.
And how can you do that for yourself?
So, for example, if you're a creative who works on your laptop a lot, and you go to a coffee shop, what you might do, for example, is you don't take your charger with you. Have your computer fully charged before you go, and all the time you have on your laptop is as long as the battery lasts. That stakes right there, because you can't just plug into unlimited power.
That's true.
Now you have, okay, I only have 2 hours or an hour and a half on this computer battery before it dies, and I can't do any more work.
Right. Set
a time limit on yourself. So Parkinson's law is kind of understanding that the complexity of a situation or of a solution will rise as you give it longer time. So let's say, for example, I assign you work that is the deadline is 3 weeks from now. If you are not intentional about it, you probably end up doing it like the last 3 days,
right?
Or the night before. What that really means to me is that I could have assigned you only 1 week to do it. And you could have saved yourself 2 weeks of not doing anything.
Right.
So Parkinson's law is kind of saying, okay, well, the time, the allotted time will expand proportionate to the complexity. So, or like really Did I say that right? Yeah, the complexity will rise if you give it more time. So don't do it to yourself. Like,
Yeah.
Deadlines really work. Deadlines work on people.
I think creatives try to rebel against deadlines because I don't know. I just think that it's in our nature that we are more spontaneous. We're more like, we just do when we feel like working, and that's really, I think, dangerous.
Yeah,
It's just like
deadline. Well,
working when you feel like
deadlines
it.
are another form of boundaries, and boundaries are really hard for creators to swallow. But just like time management is a boundary, you're bounding your time within 24 hours. But that's the thing again, like we are all given 24 hours.
Right.
What we choose to do with it is really up to ourselves.
Right.
So just it's really a mindset that you have to shift first, and it's okay. It's kind of like time management. Some people think of it like in a good metaphor is like brushing your teeth daily. It's like, why do you brush your teeth daily? Because if you don't, it's going to, your teeth will decay or rot, get cavities.
Right.
But if you let's say you brush every day, but you miss one day, are your teeth going to fall out immediately? No.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not, because what you do is you get back on the horse and you brush.
Right. You keep going.
You floss,
Yeah.
and you go, and that's, like, some people don't think brushing your teeth is a necessity. Dentists disagree with that. They encourage you to brush your teeth. In the same way, I'm going to encourage that people take time management in a serious manner. Like, make it a rule to really want to follow a time schedule, because ultimately time is money and time is value. Like, you can never get that time back, and that's what people always like. When people talk about losing spontaneity, like, they think they're going to lose that time because they always say, "I can never get it back."
Yeah.
Well, that's very true. You cannot also get back time that you just wasted not doing anything as creative. Like,
Right.
you want to have something to show for it as
Right.
well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because if you're gonna stake your identity or your profession on it, like, you want to have something to show for it. You don't just want to be someone who talks about it. You want to be someone who produces and creates. Because that's what
Right.
makes you a creative. You have to create something.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just
there
sitting
needs
around
to be something
deliberating.
to show for it, definitely. And yeah, I think that's some really good advice.
Changing the tempo, changing the frequency, like,
Yeah.
it's also something really good. Like, changing objectives. Like, you could have a daily objective, you could have a weekly objective, and a monthly objective.
Yeah. Just those. Yeah. I think that's a really good way to lay out your goals.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there any last advice, any last things you want to say about time management for creatives or just anyone out there who's listening?
Yeah, if you're going to learn a new skill, if you want to learn anything new and you want to introduce into your time management, negotiate with yourself about what you might need to give up, what you want to give up when it comes to that skill. But, like, let's just say, for example, here's one. When you're sitting down to learn something like Photoshop, if you have a hard time either focusing or just, like, getting distracted, which is kind of the same thing, but
Kind of.
just not finding the motivation
Right.
to stick to it anyway. That's really what use the timer. They call it the Pomodoro technique, but really it's just using a timer.
Yeah.
So there's 3 different stages that I always like to go with. It's like, first stage is 20 minutes of work with a 5-minute break. 20 minutes of work, 5-minute break. 20 minutes of work, 5-minute break. And during those 5 minutes, you can just goof off, do whatever you want. Like,
Right.
And you might do that for an hour a week. In like 2 different time sessions. Once you start really practicing that and getting good grip on it, because there is something you have to practice. Time management is something you have to practice. You might jump up to like 40 minutes of work with a 10-minute break between each session.
Yeah.
40 minutes, hopefully you get a good flow. 40 minutes, then you get out of the flow, refresh yourself for 10 minutes, and then you go back to work for another 40. And then really the next one is like 45 minutes and then like a 15-minute break and another 45 minutes. But really what you're supposed to do, what you should really be doing during that 15 minutes is to study something completely different. Study something completely different that you have no idea about, and that's another way to enhance that 15-minute break, because you're breaking your mind's formulation from what you're just digesting in the previous
Right.
45, and you're learning something novel. You're introducing novelty into your system's thinking, and then you get back onto the horse again, it's a way to refresh your mind.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're gonna do like 45 minutes of Photoshop. Then you might do like 15 minutes of
Psychology.
Or guerrilla marketing.
Something random.
Yeah. And then you go back to it.
Gotcha.
So novelty is really good for the brain when you are focusing a lot, because that's a balance. You're balancing. Like, you're learning something brand new, but then you're also learning something that's new in a different way, new in a different variant. That's
some great advice. All right. Well, can you tell us where the people can find you? Where can they find your podcast?
You can follow us at Cold Brew Conversations. My company is called Rebel Nature Consulting. Eric and I are the co-founders, and so we'd be happy to sit down with you, talk about time management some more, what it looks like in your day-to-day.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye, everybody.